We are CEOs, executives, educators, and professionals from all sectors of society who support the global expansion of betterment in the world through joy and JOYELY. I'm your host, Sheryl Lynn, founder of the Chair of Joy Experience. Together, we have developed the World Council of Joy, and our council invites CEOs and innovators from impactful organizations to the JOYELY podcast. We showcase how generous, bold, and fully engaged they are in their work and what a culture of joy is to them. Good day, everyone. I am Sheryl Lynn, and we are live streaming here in the JOYELY studios. And today I have an amazing guest with me, Patrick McLeany. If you haven't heard of him, you are in for a treat today. He has been on the road all over the world, teaching and educating and running companies. And so you have a new book. It's called Designing a World-Class Architecture Firm, The People, Stories, and Strategies Behind HOK. You were with HOK for almost 50 years plus 1 month. You met your wonderful, beautiful wife there, and you created this structure around what CEOs need to do as far as culture. That's what I want to talk about today. I am super excited about joy. There's a difference between happy and joy. I just want to clarify this at the beginning for all of our leaders listening. Happy is fleeting. We get happy when we buy a new car. The car breaks and then we're not happy anymore. We want to be joyful. We want to be like you, Patrick. So tell me, who were you as a young man? Who taught you to be this amazing human being that you are?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Sheryl, for having me here. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk about my passion. Gosh, I had a long journey to become an architect, but it started out with my love of my grandfather. He was a carpenter. I used to watch him draw. He built houses for people, and he drew the house plans, no computers then, on his kitchen table on a homemade drafting board. And I was fascinated by that. I begged him to let me draw a house plan. And so finally he taught me how to draw house plans using this old homemade drafting board in T-square with a store-bought triangle. I decided right then, I must have been 4 or 5 years old, I want to be a carpenter when I grow up because they get to draw house plans. I didn't know what an architect did or what the name meant. And only later I discovered, oh, they're people that are creative and they get to design things for other people. And so my life was set in front of me from that early age.
And you have no regrets about that?
Absolutely none. And some people, and of course I grew up, I went to high school and then went to college. Some people went to college to have a good time. Some people went to college to learn something so they could make a lot of money. I went to college because I loved architecture and I wanted to learn how to be a professional architect. I came out of college brimming with ideas, thinking that I wanted to transform the world. I fell in love with this idea that architects create the stage on which the world acts. That's not a quote from me. I think I'm quoting Winston Churchill or somebody. But the idea of having that role in a city or a community was quite appealing to me. And so I joined this medium-sized firm in St. Louis, Missouri, and I had no idea. I was lucky. There were 3 extraordinary men who founded this firm, and they had a big idea about what a firm could be. And most architects then and today were practicing as partners in a partnership or sole proprietorship. And the average size architecture firm then, 50 plus years ago now, was 8 people, almost practiced as a craft. And today, the average size architectural firm is about 8 people. During my tenure at HOK, which was exactly 50 years, I started as a junior designer and went all through the ranks of the firm and ended up as the CEO and chairman after almost 40 years, and helped to turn the company around. The company had gotten in trouble, but the firm grew from 1 office in the Midwest to over 27 locations around the world. So this idea, Sheryl, that you could actually make people's lives better with good design, I got to live out. Along the way, I have a saying that HOK provided everything I needed in my life, including I met my wife there.
I understand. That's a beautiful story. That's
We've
a
now
beautiful.
been married 46 years. We're grandparents. We're living in a house that she designed with my help, which was the right way for it to work. And we're still as much in love as we were the first day that we met. So I think I'm the luckiest man alive. And I didn't start out to make a lot of money. I started out to express myself through design.
Mhm.
What I learned is something important, which is if you do what you love to do, if you get somebody to help you organize how you do it, you can actually have a good life and make a good living and support yourself and your employees and your colleagues. Well-fed people that have a regular paycheck do a better job, better creative job than people who are stressed and wondering where their next paycheck is coming from. So the idea of giving people a grounding, a place where they could work and not worry about the next paycheck, but instead think about design, think about the client and about the climate and doing great buildings or great city plans. That was what I finally found was my spot, was helping other people do this work.
That's beautiful. And like I said, I have a 2-hour interview that I posted ahead of this one. So we have a lot of history. So what I would love to do is get to like fast forward to today.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the leaders that you're trying to inspire, the
Yes.
young troops around the world that have so many tools and skills in their tool belt, right? But unless they bring the culture of joy, or the cool culture that you call it at your organization, how is it that they can get to an increased bottom line? So talk to me a little bit about the joy in your workplace, the fact that you went out and you bombarded your small offices and said, tell me, talk to me. What is it you want to know? Your transparency. Talk to me a little bit about the culture of joy in your workplace.
Yes, well, with the firm when I began was filled with joy. It had what I call a buzz. People were happy. I had worked as an architect in the drafting studio, again, before computers, a couple of summers while I was in college. But the drafting room was like a tomb. It was quiet. Architects should not be withdrawn like that. Anybody doing anything creative needs to have interaction with other human beings. So when I came to interview at HOK, the office was filled with sounds, people talking, laughing, talking about their projects. You can't have that kind of culture unless the leaders instill that and encourage that. So I learned about that from the earliest time at HOK, and I learned later after we had many offices because we were successful. I could walk into an office and find out just by listening, is this office well run? If the office was well run, people were alive. People were talking, laughing, challenging each other. They were part of a team. If the office was not well run, it was quiet. People had their heads down. Maybe I'm going to get laid off today. If I keep my head down, maybe they won't notice me. Someone else will get laid off. It was a terrible thing. So I began as a new CEO. We had lots of business problems to overcome, but I began an Ask Me Anything series. I went to each of our offices. We had, I think, more than a dozen when I began as a CEO. Ask Me Anything sessions. And my favorite thing was to go to an office, gather all the staff, not just the leaders, everybody, including the people that made the coffee and ran the prints at the print shop, and said, okay, I'm going to talk for 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you what's going on in the firm. And then I love questions. I want your questions. If the office was well run, everybody had their hand up. I want to know about this, and there was nothing off the table. Everything was fair game except an HR issue. I said, I'll talk to you about the firm's finances, about the big job we just lost or the big job we just won, everything, except if you ask me about so-and-so, I won't talk about individuals unless it's good. If I want to praise somebody, I do that publicly. If I want to correct somebody's behavior, well, I do that behind closed doors. So these Ask Me Anything sessions became popular, and the offices, people in the offices began to look forward to it. And as they learned that I would answer any question, how much money did we make? What's the profitability of our office versus the other one? What's our backlog, which is the work that we have won but not yet produced, and so on. And people were just on fire finally from simply getting someone that would listen to what they said and give them straight answers. And people are anything but stupid. If you sugarcoat or make something up about something, people know. And so it challenged me to be honest, but also positive minded. And the positive minded part is we're in this together. We're going to succeed together. Yes, if we have a problem, let's put it out on the table and look at it together, solve it together. And people began to get that idea. I'll just tell you one little story that's close to my heart. I visited our office in Toronto, Canada, and that office was not well run at that time. Right now, it's a vibrant office, but then it was struggling. And the people were quite quiet. I had my little 20-minute pre-speech, and then I said, okay, questions. Nobody raised their hand. I said, gee, I've never had this happen. Please, any questions? And I finally, the Canadian dollar is called a loonie because it's a coin. It has a loon on the front that's a water bird. And I said, okay, I've got a loonie in my hand. So I had to bribe them and said, the first person to ask a question is going to get this loonie. And a young woman in the back row someplace raised her hand a little. Finally asked me, I'm going to say the milk toast of all questions. Who's the best design firm out there? HOK. I answered her question and walked back in the audience and gave her loonie. And a young man in the front row put his hand up and he said, if I ask a question, will I get a loonie too? I said, well, no, you had your chance, but I've run out of loonies. And everybody laughed. The ice was broken. And then it was like an avalanche. Those people in that office were hungry for information, for straight talk, for a positive message about where the firm was, where the firm was going. Positive message about confronting any problem projects together and solving them. So communication, straight communication, trusting people with information and not saying, well, you're too junior to understand this. I mean, literally, even I had the people that make the coffee in the offices asking questions. That's the way it should be. And in a way, a really good leader, you've seen these organizational diagrams with a bunch of boxes and the leader is at the top and then there are more boxes and it makes a pyramid. That's actually backwards or upside down. A real leader, in my opinion, is a servant leader, helping everybody else to succeed. So the servant leader is the foundation at the bottom. My job was to help other people be successful more than anything else, to help other people be successful, not figuring out some way to lead people into battle. There are things that a CEO gets to do that are pretty interesting and pretty fun, but the most thrilling part of it to me was helping other people succeed.
I really appreciate that. And everyone, if you haven't gotten his Patrick's book, please do. And he talks about the pyramid and how to build from the ground up and really start fresh or even start over if you have to. Would you say, Patrick, that I'm sure you are networking with CEOs all across the world. Where are they in these terms? Are they building the foundation or are they still doing it the other way?
Well, it's an ongoing struggle, I think. The message is out there, it's pretty clear. But what I'm learning is that it's, you've got design talent, you've got computers, you've got good people. People still have to learn things that they don't teach you in college about how to deal with other human beings, how to lead. And a lot of people confuse leading and managing. Oh, I'm going to get to be the boss. That means I get the corner office and I get to sit behind a big desk, just tell other people what to do and they'll go out and do it. Real leaders are out of their office and they're engaged with their people. If there's a problem office, a problem project, a problem client, anything, that's where the leader belongs. Taking over, but sitting with the team that's dealing with the problem and saying, okay, let's understand this problem. Let's see what we can make of it. And letting the people have their own ideas and come up with their ideas about, okay, here's how we're going to solve this schedule problem or this design problem or this we're over the budget problem. Every one of those problems can be solved with people working together. Even when it's the darkest, most dire, there's usually a way forward. I've never been in a situation where it's so dark that we all fall into the abyss and that's the end. There's always a bright future and there's always something we can do. But it's a condition of your mind, I think, that I told you before we went on the air, when people ask me, how are you doing? How are you? It's a common greeting. I always say, I am excellent, and I mean it. And I've said this for so many years that it's in fact truly become part of who I am. We can have a difficult project or a difficult client or a problem employee, whatever it is, I can still be excellent because that's the way I want to be when I deal with the world. And there's a positive message that someone who's excellent, if you say it enough times, the first time or two, it'll be, gee, I don't know if I feel excellent or not, but pretty soon you'll be amazed at how that becomes automatic. And the little, I'm going to call them irritations in life, got stuck in traffic, my plane is late, I can't get my computer up to connect to my Zoom meeting, whatever it is, those things fall by the wayside and you can be a perfectly joyous person, excellent person, inside, able to deal with everything that comes at your way, and you're in the best possible position to help other people. The other thing I just want to say is the job of any leader, CEO, president, leader of your own small firm, anything, whether it's a creative business or not, your number one job is people. People. What else? Most businesses now, most service businesses, even if you're in a business manufacturing something, it's still people. And if you don't have your people with you, like a big team, like a big family, you're selling yourself short. You're selling your company short. So to me, the perfect company, the perfect firm, it doesn't have to be a company, it could be a partnership or anything, is one where there's so little, it's like a big family, a big team on the inside, and you're able to therefore compete better outside, do something better than you've ever possibly done before. If you can take that internal friction out by getting people really aligned and so that people are willing in your firm to help each other succeed. Many firms I've seen, people are climbing over each other to get to the top. It's like a lobster pot. If you turn the water, put the lobsters in the pot live, and you turn the heat up, pretty soon the lobsters at the bottom are climbing over the other ones to try to get to the cooler water at the top. That is a heck of a way to have a business, and especially if you want people to be creative, which was what I spent my life in. You can't do it with that kind of environment. It doesn't work that well. You need to have the firm be this really safe, wonderful place where people can back each other up every day, help each other succeed, and real creativity happens.
All beautiful words to just completely ingrained. So what I'm in the business of teaching what you're talking about right now. So joy is not necessarily the KPI of all KPIs. It's the bottom line. It's the productivity. It's everything else except installing what it is that you're talking about. So if you don't mind, Patrick, I'd love to just share a little bit about what we do. Not do, but to give you the practice. And I want you to, you're probably going to say some things you've never said before in an interview. And that's my goal. I'm going to try to keep this really creative. I want to turn all your juices. So
Let's see what happens.
here's what I believe. I'm completely with you when you say that you want, there's no way that creativity and really increase can happen when there's friction in the firm. Like everyone has to be family. So this is one of the tools that we use. So if I could ask you to just take a deep breath. And this is what we do. See this chair behind me? I have a chair of joy that I bring to boardrooms around the country. And I asked CEOs and everyone from every level to sit in it. And the transformation is pretty cool. So what I ask them to do, and I'm going to ask you, is just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And I want you to tap into one of your most joyful moments ever.
Have you ever dropped your phone on the floor, on your face, or in some other embarrassing place? Don't you wish there was something you could attach to your phone case that would help you hold your phone so you don't have to, or at least as much? Introducing Steady Straps, a comfortable, adjustable, strong, elastic strap with 100% Velcro brand closures that helps you hold your phone more securely without dropping it and use it easier and faster, especially one-handed. It's the only smartphone grip accessory without adhesives, and it's 100% wireless charging ready without having to remove or adjust it first. Check us out at steadystraps.com and order some today.
Something that you haven't already said on an interview, but let's just go to some place in time when everything was just cranking for you.
Well, gosh, actually, probably one of the wonderful things that ever occurred in my life was when I met my wife. She was actually hired. She's an architect, a very good architect. I had gotten very busy, and my boss at the time, this is 47 years ago, so it was a long time ago, my boss at the time hired this woman architect to help me with my work, but he didn't tell me that there was somebody coming. And so I didn't know about it. And the day that she reported for work, which happened to be her birthday, I was gone that day and that week on a vacation with my parents and my brothers and their families. So I came back a week later and walked into the office, and there was this new person at a desk near mine. And I just knew she was the woman I was going to marry. I just knew. Don't ask me to explain. I knew. And it was all I could do to keep from, I didn't know what her name was, what she was doing in the office, anything. It was all I could do to keep from running up, giving her a big hug and saying, "Will you marry me?" So I did not do that. That was probably the most wonderful moment in my memory. This is like a God's gift to me, this beautiful woman. And of course, her reaction when she saw me was a little different. I'm glad I waited to give her a hug. She wondered, because she hadn't seen me in the office, she didn't know who I was. She thought maybe I was a salesman selling architectural products that had come calling in the office. So we got acquainted, and with almost 1 year to the day after we met, we never had a date. I will tell people this, and they still don't believe it. We worked together side by side on projects. 6 months after she started, the bosses found out that she was far too valuable to be my assistant, so they gave her her own projects. But we continued to talk. We never had a date, decided to get married. Never kissed, never held hands, just decided to get married. And the next day we made an announcement in the office, and it was again like the family. Everybody in the office knew this was going to happen. And we were a little surprised that everybody else saw us drawing closer together. It was the most wonderful thing.
Yes.
And we did get married. Obviously, we did almost 46 years ago.
Lovely.
And we're parents and grandparents. Have got a great family. Mm-hmm. We love each other as much now. And I helped her with her architectural work. She helped me with mine. We've been each other's sounding boards and supporters, best fans. So we're not only in love, but we're best friends. And she's the joy of my life.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. I think that what I love about that, and I think I've heard you saying this in an interview before, but the culture that you created was not just at home, was not just at work, but that it was 100% completely intertwined, which is, again, what we're teaching. So thank you for sharing that memory. That was beautiful. I'm going to ask you to do it one more time. And let's go somewhere else, some other amazing point in your life. So deep breath in. Another place, another time, maybe not work related. You could have been a young boy, something else that just was like, oh my God, this was just so much joy.
This was way back when I was a little boy, and my grandfather was who was the carpenter. He not only taught me to draw, but he taught me how to use carpenter tools. It was a very simple little thing. I wanted to build a little desk bedroom at home so I could, and so I went and I called him Pop. I said, Pop, do you think I could do this? And he said, well, yes, I do think you could do it. So Pop took me into his shop, which was next door to his house. And he wouldn't let me use any of the power tools, only the hand tools. And he taught me how to use the saw properly, how to measure twice and cut once. Many good lessons. And he kind of helped me with it, but I was the one that got to do the work. I wanted to saw and I wanted to, but Pop was right there with me. But that steady, caring, letting me do it, but being there to help me, give me advice, but not to do it for me was I think I learned a lot about life from my grandfather at that, just that little project to make that little desk. I loved that desk and used it for many, many years.
That's beautiful. All right, perfect. So we're going to take my experience, my Chair of Joy experience a little further, because you are so ingrained in this culture of joy. If you could your wife, and the moment you saw her, that was your first memory, and your Pop giving you the directions to, measure twice, cut once, that whole moment, what would you say the one defining word is that connect those two memories?
It definitely is joy. That's a beautiful way of thinking about it. I mean, my gosh. One other one popped into my head. I was present with my wife when our son was born.
Yes.
And this was the days before you knew the sex of the child and so on. And when he was born, I was there with the doctor and so on, helping my wife with timer, breathing and all that. And when he was born, both of us burst into tears, my wife and I both. And they were really tears of joy. He was this perfect little baby boy.
Yes.
And he's now a big, strapping 42-year-old with a family of his own.
I love it.
It was just perfect.
Perfectly joyful. All right. We're going to go a little farther just because I want to tap into this creative brain of yours. If you had to put this essence, this one word, this joy into some kind of container, what kind of container? Describe the container. What would you put joy in?
Well, I do know that I dream a lot. I still dream big dreams about things, and it's always the world getting better. So to me, if you put it in a container, it's going to have to be a very big container, and it's going to be luminous. Like I think of remaking cities to be these beautiful places for people. That's a great big dream. And a lot of hard work, but oh my gosh, what a chance. So yes, big and luminous, probably multicolors, and very much alive, not something an architect would do that's solid. That's my thought about it.
Thank you for that. So what I heard just then was that you still have a big dream. You still have this of having massive, beautiful cities. You also have a vision of helping young entrepreneurs, young creatives, young people who are providing service to rise to the occasion so that your legacy can be fulfilled in them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Hold up. Wait, we're going to let you answer that, but I want to add to that last thing. We're going to take this big, beautiful city that you're going to create, and we're going to put it on the top of the airplane. Most people put their container in a cup or, bottle, but you've got this city. So we can't take it in the airplane. We're going to take it on top of the airplane, and we're going to fly into LaGuardia. We're getting off. There's 3,000 CEOs there. I want you to say to all these young servicemen that are standing there, all these people that are just starting architectural businesses, what do they need to understand about your container of joy, of this CEO? What is your legacy? What is your words of wisdom for them?
Yes, it's precisely this opportunity. If I could speak to 3,000 or 300,000, a big number of people about this, I think the first thing is what an awesome opportunity you have to do great design work. And I'm not you're very particular how you define joy. I'm particular about what design is, and it's the beauty is not just skin deep. It's design that's all the way through, that's really helping people live and play and work and go to school and get healed and so on. And so you have this great opportunity. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. Second thing I'd say is if you don't dream big enough, you'll regret it later. I was lucky. I had this dream for myself. HOK took me on a journey that was bigger than my dream. And so I would say to young people, dream big about this. The world needs this. The world needs what you have. So think big about it. And then the last one is always the same, which is you're not going to get there alone. You're going to get there because you know how to treat people and work with people and help people meld into a team to help you do this, live out this dream. So if you dream big and you have people helping you, you can actually achieve your dreams. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you had a firm or a business or a profession or a practice where people could join you knowing that reach for their dreams and it was actually real, that you could actually achieve this dream by being in this environment with these other people. That's the ideal. And that's what this world really needs from us. So if I could help people understand that and reach for those dreams, oh my gosh, I'd be very, very happy. I'm already excellent, but I would be in ecstasy.
I think that you have a way of saying that is very eloquent because you've lived it, right? You not only did get to see your dream come true to beyond your imagination, but I imagine that you're helping, or you've helped, still helping based on the company still thriving, thousands of people realize their hopes and dreams. That's got to be the best feeling under the sun.
Yes, I feel quite fulfilled. And people say, well, you worked for 50 years, don't you miss it? I say, well, the responsibilities I don't miss, but I do miss the people, and I still reach out. And now we've had the coronavirus, but I'm in good touch with many, many people in the firm that are still practicing, and many people outside the firm, people all over the world. So we have friends in every continent, I think, except Antarctica. And we're working on that one.
Beautiful. Here's one more question that's going to spread more joy around the world based on who you are as a leader. If you could take a box of those books and give them to a group of people or one person that could pass it along, who would you give it to? Is there someone that comes to mind that you would just pass along this incredible amount of leadership style that you have and skill?
I hadn't thought about that. Well, I'd actually like to go beyond architects and creative people, anybody that's charged with leading, including maybe the ones that need it the most, the politicians. Can you actually accomplish more instead of fighting if you collaborate and you work together? I think there'd be a great lesson in there for people that are in politics. And, I will tell you that I have stopped watching television news some years ago. Why? Because it's filled with negativity. If it bleeds, it leads kind of thing. And I wish that people wouldn't think about politics or any public service as fighting for this or fighting for that. Instead, working for this and working collaboratively for that. So I think there's a real lesson for maybe people in public. I had never thought about this, Sheryl, but yes, maybe from President Biden on down, I'd love to give a copy of my book to the president and everybody in Congress. Wouldn't that be something? Wow.
If you need an address, I have a bunch of people that you can send it to.
Okay, thank you.
If you're interested, box it up and send it off. Why not? What do we have to lose?
There you go.
There's great learning in that for everyone. So my intention today was to have you speak to a group of people that maybe you haven't spoke to yet and say some things you haven't said yet before in any other interview. So my question for you today is, what is your biggest takeaway? Do you think we accomplished that? And then lastly, what else would you like to say to our CEO listening audience today?
Well, again, Sheryl, I just thank you. I've had great fun here. And you've made me think in new, different ways that I haven't thought about for a very long time, actually. Are there any other messages? I'm not selling books here. I'm promoting ideas that I think are helpful to people. I do not need to live on income from book sales. That's not the point at all. If people, however, accepted and adopted some of the thinking, some of the ideas that are in the book that's intended to be helpful to everybody, that would always put a smile on my face if they did that. So that would be my plea to people that are listening today.
There's a lot of people on Apple and iTunes and all the places this is going to be posted that can see us. So would you mind holding the book up real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So everyone can see the book. And so when they go to Amazon and all the Barnes and Nobles everywhere, that it is beautiful. Designing world-class architecture from the people's stories and strategies behind.
Again, Sheryl, thank you. My goodness, what a great time.
It was my pleasure. I know when I read about you, I said, this cool culture that they talk about on HOK website. The spaces that people get to show up to and work in a collaborative space. I mean, who wouldn't be in a creative mode and zone and therefore increase the bottom line in all other KPIs?
Yeah, indeed.
So,
indeed. Yeah.
Congratulations on all of your success, and just hang on with us a little bit. And I just want to say thank you again to Patrick MacLeamy for being with us, for writing a book, for being consistent and persuasive with his team and the world about how to get on board with a corporate culture of joy. I'm calling it that, even though you've called it collaboration. It's got a lot of names, but I think that ultimately we want to be humans, and we want to be transparent, and when we want to show up and be truthful and have integrity. So I appreciate you for being here today. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.